Hello, my name is Dr. Shadi Shahnavaz. I'm a family therapist and I'm part of the Family Ties team at the Anna Freud Center. Today, we're going to talk about letting go of past relationships and old patterns. Separation doesn't always mean that ex-partners are letting go and moving on. In many cases, when couples separate, they do move on and often can collaborate very well as parents if they have children. For some families, however, the separating couple gets stuck in old patterns. Ex-partners remain involved, almost more involved than they used to be before. Often parents say to us, we're sending more emails and more text messages now than we ever did when we were together. And unfortunately, more often than not, these messages and emails are quite angry, toxic, attacking, and can be very, very painful to receive. Separating from someone you had chosen as a partner you loved and shared wonderful memories with is really difficult. A separation from someone who you had thought about the future with is incredibly painful and can create a huge sense of loss sometimes. And sometimes ex-partners can feel like they failed in their life if they separate. They see separation as a failure. As a couple goes through the process of separating, the relationship becomes difficult and the sadness can turn into anger because often feeling anger is easier than to feel deep sadness and grief as well as feelings of failure. So the anger takes over and the ex-partners start to blame each other. They start saying things like, you shouldn't have done this, you should have done that, if only you did this, why can't you do that? So just blaming each other all the time. And this vicious cycle of hatred and blame continues, unfortunately, sometimes for several years. The cycles of hatred and blame can feel like a battle between ex-partners. Letting go of these communications, regardless of how toxic they are, can feel like losing the battle, which makes it harder for each partner to move on. Additionally, it can be that ex-partners struggle to move on because they're so used to having that person in their life. Moving on from destructive patterns means not knowing what might be ahead of them, which can feel scary. However, letting go of these battles is an important step to moving forward. Realizing that what was once a very loving, caring relationship is now a toxic and hostile one is a very, very traumatic experience. When responding to trauma, we're not able to regulate our thoughts and emotions as well as we usually can because the brain almost can't accept and process the hostility between ex-partners. And so each of the partners goes into survival mode where they withdraw or attack. By withdrawing, you opt out of dealing with the trauma, and by attacking, you actually add to the battle. Ex-partners can often try and deal with separation. They want to control their ex-partner by dealing with it. They want to control their ex-partner to behave in a way that they want. I often hear people say, if only they would do this when I'm asking them to do it, or if only they do it the way I'm asking them, or if only they'd listen to me and do this and this, things would go smoothly. However, the sooner we realize that we can never control anyone else but ourselves, the sooner we can move on to a more positive way of interacting with one another. While we can't change the other person, you can change your own behavior, which is easier to do with the help of professionals and the network around you. And often, in my experience, this has a ripple effect. So if you can change the way you behave around your ex-partner, usually they may start to change as well, the way they behave with you. We have been speaking largely about the impact of separation on ex-partners, but it's important not to forget how separation of parents impacts on children. Parents often get so caught up in their arguments and fighting and their hatred for each other that they can't really hold their child's well-being in mind. And ironically, most of the arguments, if not all of them, are about the children. How much each parent should be with the child's education, holidays, and so on. So while the arguments tend to be about the children's welfare, the person who is suffering the most in the argument about the child is the child itself. Often, we've seen how parents get so caught up in their own anxiety, their own stress, their own anger, that there is little space to think about the child's needs at that moment, despite how very much each parent loves their child. Understanding the harm that is being done to ourselves, to our ex-partner, and especially to our children when we're caught in these destructive patterns, when we're caught in this eternal fight of who is to blame, who is not to blame, who's wrong and who's right, is the first step to moving forward. Once we understand the damage that's being done, we can start to let go of these destructive patterns and move on to get help and learn how to have a more collaborative relationship with our ex-partner. We can begin to heal and learn from the past and look forward in our life, again, with help of professionals like our team and other teams and networks. Having friends and family around you to support this new relationship with your ex-partner or co-parent is really important. With this help, we have seen families who come to our service feeling very hostile towards each other, but who are able to quickly, and because of the love that they feel for their children, begin to collaborate and get along well and put all those past destructive patterns behind them. Thank you for your time.